What's up, everybody? This is going to be a quick little video about how to lay up a flat carbon fiber panel. The steps to make a flat carbon panel are the same whether it's 2 layers or 20 layers. This specific one will end up being close to a 1/4 inch thick, so there's a decent amount of layers. I'm going to use this particular panel to do some tests and stuff on. So when you're doing a panel that thick, you want to make sure the layers are even. So we have 0.90 plies, and then we have plies cut at 45-degree angles. This will give us an even layup. The technical term is quasi-isotropic. It's just having the same thread orientation or number of layers above and below the midline of the part. A little technical, but you just want to make sure you make it evenly. This will help the panel from twisting as it cures or heats or cools or anything like that. When you do vacuum bagging, you want to get everything laid up, ready to go. You can see we got our brush ready, we got our roller ready, we even have our vacuum line ready. Down here we have all the consumables, the peel ply, the bleeder, and the bag. Might be a little hard to see in the video. So that way, once you mix your epoxy and get ready to go, you're going. You got 5, 10, 15 minute pot life to get everything down and on. So let's get to it. So while I'm mixing this, I'm going to talk a little bit about our setup over here. This is just a mirror from Lowe's or Home Depot. It got some construction adhesive and just bonded it to a piece of plywood. Makes it a little bit easier to handle, less chance of breaking it. We already released this with a chemical release. The two methods we use are chemical release and wax and PVA. If you're just getting started out, wax and PVA, it's a little bit cheaper, a little bit almost easier to work with, a little more forgiving, I think. Chemical release is nice because once you release the part, you can do a couple pulls before having to re-release it. So in an environment like this where I may have to pull a couple parts real quick, it's nicer, but again, it is more expensive. So once we get our epoxy mixed up real nice, you want to lay your first bit on the mold as large as the pieces are. I'm going to have to guess a little bit on this one. Looks about right. You want to be careful for any brush bristles. If you're like me and you use the cheap brushes, sometimes they'll come out and get on the first layer. You always want to check the front, make sure there aren't any stray fibers. Lay it down. These are small enough where it's kind of easy, you can just slap it down. And then wet out your first layer. So we got enough on our first layer. Now we're going to take our roller, roll it. Now even though we are vacuum bagging it, we still roll out the first layer just to get any of them bubbles in there out to the edges. Because if you were to just lay it on, vacuum it down, sometimes those little bubbles, the layers will get consolidated, but those bubbles won't necessarily make their way out. So that's why we roll the first layer or two. Second layer. So we're getting ready to put on our consumables. Here's our peel ply layer. Then your bleeder. And you can see the peel ply is a little bit larger than the part, and then the bleeder is even larger than that. And then we're going to add this little extra bit. Because it's a thick laminate, it's probably going to pull out a lot of excess resin, so that'll kind of just keep it from getting sucked up into our vacuum line. We already finished our vacuum line. And then these little clamps, again, get at Home Depot or Lowe's, come in handy all the time. Just hold your line on for you. Now we're ready to bag. I always like to start at one corner and then just work my way to the opposite corner. There's a couple different techniques for bagging. Just use whatever you kind of like, what feels comfortable. If you have a little bit of extra bag left over, because the bag had to make it up and over the hose, this side might have a tiny bit extra, you can almost just pull the bag, because the gum tape gives you a little bit of wiggle room, we'll call it, where you can almost stretch out the bag to take up that little bit of extra. A little bit warm today, almost 90 in my shop, so I got to be quick. You always want to push down around your corners and around your, if you have pleats, or around your vacuum line. So we're off to the oven. Alright, so here it is, vacuum sucked down on it. You can already see where the extra epoxy is getting pulled out through the part. The vacuum pressure is what kind of really consolidates, squishes down the layers. This has only been going for about a minute or two now, but you can see kind of why we ended up putting the extra piece here. Otherwise it could backtrack all the way into the line after a couple of minutes. Thick laminates always have a bunch of extra, so you got to be careful about that, but we checked it. The vacuum is good, so that's about it. Time to turn the oven on and let it cure, and then we'll pop it out and demold it, run our test on it, do what we got to do. So it's been about 2 hours. It's longer than we needed with the elevated temp of the oven, but it's ready to go. So we're going to demold the panel that we just laid up. Take a corner, yank off your consumables. Keep going. Peel ply and bleeder, they get tossed out as well. And then just pick a corner. The release was done well, it should come up pretty easily. Once you get under a little bit of it, it's a little bit easier. There we go. There you go. Nice vacuum bag panel. Squeeze pretty good. You can see the reflection in it pretty good, which makes sense. It's made on a mirror. Sounds pretty hard. This thing really stiff. So that's about it. There you go. This could be cut into you know, whatever. Possibilities are kind of endless. So I hope this helps you guys out.